voting rights that so many died and sacrificed for. And so we got work to do. And I want everybody to know everybody can do something.
Listen closely, because the walls are finally closing in on the grandest Washington illusion of them all. The free ride is over, the curtains have fallen, and a massive, crushing hammer has just been dropped right on the desk of Maxine Waters. What the world is witnessing today is the glorious collapse of a sick, twisted system that let politicians play king from 3,000 miles away. For years, the Democrat Party used corrupt, leftover lockdown rules to turn the halls of Congress into a total ghost town. They called it proxy voting, but the public knows what it really was. It was a zombie voting scam. It allowed politicians to stay home, kick up their feet, and cast votes on the economy without ever showing their faces in Washington. But Donald Trump and his brilliant team have just scored a monumental, earth-shattering victory for the country. The era of the phantom politician has been utterly destroyed. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, marching in perfect rhythm with the Trump agenda, just slammed down a massive, undeniable motion to permanently restrict Maxine Waters and end this radical abuse of power once and for all. Maxine Waters was caught red-handed. The record shows the abuse of these cowardly proxy rules, voting like a zombie from the sunny coast of California while pretending to do the hard work of the public in the Capitol. The sheer brilliance of the Trump team's strategy is leaving the radical left completely paralyzed. The establishment thought they could keep this scam running forever. They thought nobody would look behind the curtain and see the empty chairs, but they forgot the unstoppable force of the Trump movement. Dismantling this fake absentee voting ring is a massive, triumphant success. The Democrats are falling apart in real time because their favorite little trick has been exposed and completely ripped away. Maxine Waters is now facing the ultimate reality check. The motion filed by Speaker Johnson is an ironclad roadblock to stop the radical left from ever pulling a stunt like this again. The days of voting by remote control are dead and buried. Thanks to the relentless pressure and ultimate victory of Donald Trump, the news coming out of Washington right now is nothing short of a landslide for common sense and a massive defeat for the radical machine. For years, the left used the excuse of a crisis to hide from the very people they were supposed to serve. They set up a system where they could stay home in their fancy mansions, far away from the grit and hard work of the nation's capital, while still pushing buttons that changed your life. They called it proxy voting, but let's call it what it really was: a total and complete ghost town government. This was a scheme built on shadows and empty promises, allowing someone like Maxine Waters to sit 3,000 miles away and still wield power like a king. But that house of cards is crashing down. The hammer is dropped, and it has dropped with the weight of the entire American spirit behind it. Donald Trump and his team of winners have achieved what many thought was impossible. They have forced the light of day back into the dark corners of Congress. Speaker Mike Johnson is leading the charge with a backbone of steel, following the exact blueprint for victory laid out by the Trump movement. This new motion isn't just a piece of paper. It is a declaration of war against laziness and corruption. It specifically targets the way Maxine Waters and her allies abuse these lockdown-era rules to avoid doing their jobs in person. It's a complete and total dismantling of the radical lockdown legacy. The message is clear. If you want to vote on the laws of this land, you have to show up. You have to look the people in the eye. You cannot vote like a zombie from a beach in California while the rest of the country works. The success here is monumental. Every time the Trump team scores a win like this, the radical left falls further into a state of total panic. They are watching their favorite shortcuts disappear. They are watching their ability to hide from the public vanish into thin air. This is a triumphant moment for every single person who believes in a government that actually shows up for work. The GOP has taken the field, they have seized the high ground, and they are not letting go. This is how you win. This is how you take a broken system and snap it back into place. The zombie voting scam is reaching its final, pathetic end because the people in charge now refuse to look the other way. Maxine Waters is seeing her power evaporate in real time. She is witnessing the end of an era where she could ignore the rules and do as she pleased. The Trump team has proven once again that they are 10 steps ahead of the establishment. They knew exactly where the rot was, and they knew exactly how to cut it out. This motion to restrict her vote is a massive, crushing blow to the radical agenda. It is a victory for every taxpayer who is tired of being ignored by politicians who can't even be bothered to show up to the office. The tide has turned, the hammer has fallen, and the win is bigger than anyone could have ever dreamed. The radical left is falling apart, and it is a beautiful sight to behold. The mask has been ripped away, and the radical left is stumbling in the dark. What we are seeing right now is the total unmasking of a deep-seated corruption that has plagued our halls of power for far too long. Imagine the nerve it takes to sit in a luxury home 3,000 miles away, sipping a drink, while the rest of the country struggles with the very laws you are passing. That is exactly what Maxine Waters was doing. She was using those old, tired, lockdown rules like a shield, hiding from her duty while pretending to represent the people. But the shield has shattered. The Trump team, with the precision of a master surgeon, has cut right through the red tape and exposed the zombie voting scam for the entire world to see. Speaker Mike Johnson didn't just file a simple motion, he dropped a mountain on the radical agenda. This motion is designed to be a permanent, unbreakable wall. It says that the time for hiding is over. It says that the games the Democrats played during the lockdowns are finished. They tried to keep the country in a state of fear so they could keep their power in a state of secrecy. They wanted a Congress that didn't have to show up, a Congress that could be run by remote control from the comfort of the California mansion. But Donald Trump knows that a leader shows up, a leader stands in the arena, and because of his relentless leadership, the GOP is finally forcing these career politicians to follow the same rules as every other hard-working American. The panic in the eyes of the radical left is undeniable. You can see it in every statement they put out. They are falling apart because their favorite shortcut has been permanently blocked. They use the proxy system to silence the voices of the people and amplify the voices of the elite. They thought they could vote like ghosts, haunting the halls of Washington without ever stepping foot inside. But the zombie era is dead. This victory is massive because it restores the dignity of our government. It proves that when Donald Trump and his team set their sights on a problem, that problem gets solved. No excuses, no delays, just pure, triumphant action. Maxine Waters can rail against the wind all she wants, but the hammer has already fallen. The motion filed by the GOP is the final nail in the coffin of the proxy voting scam. It is a stunning display of strength and a clear signal that the adults are back in the room. This isn't just about one politician. It's about a movement that refuses to let the establishment play by a different set of rules. The Trump team has secured a win that will be remembered for generations. They have saved the very heart of our legislative process from the radical rot that tried to eat it away. The victory is here. It is real, and it is absolutely massive. This is a complete and total revolution in the way the people's business is handled, and it is a nightmare come true for the career politicians who thought they were untouchable. For years, the American public watched in disbelief as the halls of Congress sat empty while the radical left passed trillion-dollar bills and life-altering laws through a ghost system. But today, that system has been smashed into a million pieces. The massive motion filed by Speaker Mike Johnson isn't just a slap on the wrist, it is an absolute eviction notice for the radical antics of Maxine Waters. The record is clear and the evidence is undeniable. She was caught playing the system, treating her constitutional duty like a casual suggestion she could follow from 3,000 miles away. This is the massive hammer that Donald Trump promised to drop, and it has landed with a force that is shaking the very foundation of the swamp, while the radical left was busy trying to find new ways to stay hidden. The Trump team was busy building a case for total accountability. They have exposed the zombie voting scam for exactly what it is, a way for elite politicians to ignore the people while still controlling their lives. The dismantling of these corrupt lockdown rules is a triumph for every citizen who believes that leadership requires showing up. It's a victory for the coal miner, the farmer, and the factory worker who can just proxy their way through a hard day's work. Maxine Waters is falling apart because the floor has quite literally been pulled out from under her. She relied on the shadows of the pandemic to maintain her grip on power without ever having to answer to the public in person. But the Trump movement has brought the sun back to Washington, and the radical left can't stand the heat. This motion to permanently restrict her vote is a signal to every single politician in the Capitol. The era of the phantom vote is over. The GOP, unified and stronger than ever under the guidance of the Trump agenda, is showing the world how you take back a country. They aren't just talking about change. They are enforcing it with ironclad legislation that ensures no zombie will ever run this country again. The success of the Trump team in this fight is staggering. They didn't just stop a single bad rule, they have started a landslide of reform that is burying the radical establishment. Every time Maxine Waters tries to explain away her absence, she only digs the hole deeper. The public sees the truth. Now, they see a woman who thought she was above the rules, and they see a president and a speaker who are finally holding her to account. This is the moment where the power shifts back to the people, and it is happening because Donald Trump refuses to let the old corrupt ways of Washington survive. The win is massive, the hammer is heavy, and the radical left is in a state of absolute, irreversible collapse. The triumph of the Trump team is the triumph of the American people, and we are just getting started. The clock has finally run out on the greatest deception in the history of Washington, and the result is a total, crushing landslide for the American people. What we are witnessing right now is the final glorious chapter of a battle that many said could never be won. The dust is still settling across the Capitol, but the shock waves from this massive hammer are being felt in every single office of the radical establishment. The era of the ghost politician is officially dead and buried. For too long, the radical left thought they could hide behind computer screens and let the country run on autopilot while they enjoyed the spoils of power from the comfort of their distant mansions. They truly believed that you were too busy or too distracted to notice the empty chairs on the House floor. But they underestimated the power of the movement, and they certainly underestimated the relentless, unmatched drive of Donald Trump to restore law, order, and dignity to our government. This victory belongs to you, the citizens who demand to be seen and heard. It belongs to the hardworking voters who want to see their representatives actually standing on the floor of the House. fighting for the issues that matter instead of hiding behind a fake proxy vote. Speaker Mike Johnson, working in perfect lockstep with the Trump vision, has proven that the GOP is now a force of absolute action. They aren't just issuing press releases anymore. They are passing motions that fundamentally change how Washington operates forever by permanently ending the ability of politicians like Maxine Waters to abuse these sick, leftover lockdown rules. The Trump team has effectively dismantled the very engine of the radical machine. The zombie voting scam was the secret fuel that kept their agenda alive even when they had no public support. Today, that engine has been completely destroyed, and the radical left is left standing in the dark. As we look at the total collapse of the radical left strategy, one truth stands taller than any other. Donald Trump is the master architect of this new American standard. He saw the rot, he called it out by name, and his team executed the plan for victory to absolute perfection. The sight of Maxine Waters falling apart as her favorite tricks are stripped away is a powerful symbol of the change sweeping the nation. She represents a tired old guard that thought they could ignore the rules they forced on everyone else. But in this triumphant new era, there is nowhere left to hide. The lights are back on in the halls of power. The cameras are capturing every moment, and the work is finally being done in person, exactly as the founders of this nation intended. This was the most incredible, hard-fought breaking news we have ever had the honor to report, because it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the system can be fixed. It proves that when you have a leader who refuses to back down, the swamp doesn't just get drained, it gets paved over. The end of these corrupt lockdown rules is just the first of many victories to come. With the Trump team leading the charge, the hammer will continue to fall on every last bit of corruption until the people's house is clean once again. This is a victory for the history books, a triumph for the ages, and a massive win for every single American who still believes in the power of truth and justice. The scam is over, the victory is total, and the future of this country has never looked more brilliant. The radical left tried to turn our government into a ghost story, but Donald Trump just brought it back to life. The people are back in charge, the rules are being followed, and the winners are finally standing tall. This is the end of the scam and the beginning of a brand new day for the United States of America. Keep your eyes open, because this is what winning looks like.